I used to think my biggest challenge was staying afloat against the big-name retail giants. But then, I came across a hotel key card tucked away in my wife's purse, and suddenly, that problem seemed small. What really tore the ground out from under me was finding out who she'd been meeting there. 24 years of marriage and a lifetime of brotherhood shattered like glass, all because of greed and a scheme that ran far deeper than I ever imagined. They figured I was too easygoing, too trusting to see it coming. Thought I wouldn't fight back. Well, they were dead wrong. My name's Jason Miller, but most folks just call me Jace. I turned 50 not long ago. Up until about 7 months back, I really thought I had it made. I owned 3 sporting goods stores scattered across Utah. I lived in the same house my dad passed down to me, the one that had been in our family for 3 solid decades. And I had a wife who used to laugh at my cheesy fishing jokes like they were the funniest thing she ever heard. Tina and I raised 2 great kids, both grown now and off chasing their own dreams. Our daughter Emily's working as a nurse down in Salt Lake City, and our son Ben's wrapping up his senior year over at Colorado State. Folks call it empty nest syndrome, and I guess that's when a lot of marriages either tighten up or start coming apart. For us, it was a Wednesday evening in April when the seams started to rip. I was in the kitchen, going over supplier invoices, nothing out of the ordinary, when Tina came through the front door. That in itself wasn't strange. She often worked late at the insurance office downtown. But something about her that night felt off. Her hair wasn't thrown together like she'd had a busy day. It looked purposefully tousled, like someone had run their fingers through it, not in a rush, but with intent. "Hey there," I called out. I still glued to my paperwork. "How was your day?" She didn't answer right away. When I looked up, I saw her standing by the mirror in the hallway, reapplying her lipstick. Her hands were shaking. That threw me off. Tina never wore lipstick to the office. She used to joke it made her feel like she was trying too hard. "Just give me 5 minutes," she said, her voice tight like a stretched wire. "I need to freshen up." There was something in her tone that made me set down my pen. I replied slowly, "Take all the time you need." "But Tina, you okay? You seem—" "I'm fine, Jace." She cut me off and was already halfway up the stairs. "Just had a long day." I watched her disappear up there. And that's when I noticed it, right by her feet, on the floor. A hotel keycard sleeve from the Highland Vista Inn. That place was a good 25-minute drive outside of town. The date on it was stamped for that very day. Room 232. I picked it up and turned it over in my hands, like maybe the answer would be written on the back. But the Highland Vista Inn? That wasn't the kind of place you'd book for a business meeting. It was a cozy spot. The kind of place folks went to escape for a weekend. Funny thing is, I actually proposed to Tina there, 25 years ago. Back when we thought love could fix anything. Upstairs, I could hear drawers opening, the bathroom faucet running, everyday sounds, but they suddenly felt loaded. Like she was scrubbing away something she didn't want me to see. I folded the keycard sleeve and slipped it into my shirt pocket, heart thudding in my chest. A part of me wanted to charge up there, lay it all out and demand answers. But there's another side to being married for over 2 decades. You learn when to press pause. You figure out when to wait. I told myself to hold off, gather more facts, and try not to jump the gun. About 25 minutes later, Tina came back down. She'd changed clothes, traded her work outfit for jeans and a sweater, and her hair was still damp from a shower. "You feeling better?" I asked, doing my best to sound casual. "Much," she said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "I think I might be coming down with something, maybe a cold." Her voice was off, like she was reading from a script. That night, lying next to her in bed, I stared at the ceiling, feeling like I didn't even know the woman beside me anymore. When had she started hiding things from me? And what else was she keeping secret? The next morning, she left for work earlier than usual. Said she had to meet a client bright and early. Her kiss goodbye felt robotic, like checking off a task on a list. I stood at the window, watching her car disappear down the street, that keycard sleeve still tucked in my pocket like a burning piece of truth I couldn't unsee. I'd spent half the night going over possible explanations in my head. Maybe she met a client there. Maybe it was some work event. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But after 24 years of sharing a life, you start to notice the cracks. And every instinct I had was screaming that something wasn't right. After she left, I crossed a line I never thought I would. I went through her stuff. I'm not proud of that. But sometimes desperation makes you do things you swore you'd never do. Started with her dresser, then her side of the closet. Nothing obvious, but I could see little things, gaps where clothes used to be. The jewelry box was lighter too, like it was missing a few pieces I'd gifted her over the years. Then I checked her sock drawer. Way in the back, behind some winter thermals, I found it. A second phone. Cheap burner kind, the kind a teenager might buy if they didn't want mom and dad tracking them. My hands were trembling when I turned it on. The messages made my stomach twist. Text after text, going back 4 months. All of them sent to someone named M. The conversations were vague, careful, like they were trying not to leave a trail. But even though the messages were vague, the message behind them was loud and clear. Coffee tomorrow at the usual spot. He's working late again. And then the most recent one, just sent the day before. Same place tonight? I can't wait much longer. I set the phone down, walked into the bathroom, and splashed cold water on my face, hoping it might shock me out of this surreal moment. When I looked up into the mirror, the man staring back at me looked worn out. I looked older than 50. When had the creases by my eyes gotten so deep? When did the gray in my hair start outnumbering the brown? Maybe Tina had just grown tired of waking up next to a man who looked like he'd aged a decade overnight. But then a thought surfaced, one I hadn't considered until now. Dad's inheritance didn't stop at the house. There was his life insurance policy, too. I was named the primary beneficiary, but Tina? She was listed right after me, just in case. And then there were the business assets. Everything we'd built together from scratch over the past 20-plus years. If she was planning to leave, I had no doubt she'd want to take as much with her as she could. I turned the burner phone back on and started digging deeper into the old texts. That's when I found it, buried in a thread from 3 weeks back. Lawyer says we need 7 months of documented separation before filing. Just a little longer. My heart sank. Tina wasn't just being unfaithful. She was plotting, actively planning, to walk away with everything. Quietly, I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, making sure it looked untouched. Everything back in place. But now I understood exactly what I was up against. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was organized, thought through, cold and deliberate. If she had a strategy, I needed one too. That evening, I made up my mind to follow her. She told me she was heading to her book club, but I'd already reached out to her friend Shelley. Turns out, there wasn't any meeting planned that night. Tina left the house at 7:40. I waited 10 minutes, then climbed into my truck and followed at a safe distance. Far enough not to be spotted, but close enough not to lose her. She pulled into the Highland Vista and like she'd been there a dozen times, walking into the lobby like it was familiar ground. And that alone crushed me. But what really broke me in half came 15 minutes later. A blue Ford pickup rolled into the parking lot, one I recognized instantly. I'd helped buy that truck just last year when his old Toyota finally gave out. My brother Eric stepped out. Yeah, Eric. He was the best man at my wedding. The guy who never missed a barbecue. The one who always called Tina his favorite sister-in-law. Same Eric who'd borrowed money from me 4 different times in the last few years and promised, each time, he'd pay it back. I sat in my truck, engine off, stunned, watching him walk through the same hotel doors my wife had just gone through. In one moment, 24 years of marriage fell apart like a cheap folding chair. The rage hit me like a punch to the chest, but I gritted my teeth and stayed calm. Getting myself arrested for losing it wasn't going to fix anything. So instead of storming the place, I drove to O'Reilly's bar, place Eric and I used to hang out as teenagers. Shot pool there. Snuck beers behind the jukebox. There was still a payphone in the back corner, and I dropped in a few coins to make the call. Hey, Jace, he answered, his voice flat and tired. What's going on? Where are you right now? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Long silence. At home. Watching the game. I paused too. Eric, I said, slow and measured, I'm gonna give you one more shot. Where are you? Another pause. Longer this time. Then a sigh I'll never forget. Jace. I can explain. No, I said, cutting him off. Don't you dare try to cover this with lies. Just tell me how long it's been going on. He whispered it. 7 months. 7 months. 7 months of family dinners where the two of them sat across from each other like nothing was happening. 7 months of Eric pretending to be heartbroken over being single. 7 months of lies. The house Dad left me. I said, my voice low and calm. Too calm. You always said it should have been split between us. This is how you get your half, huh? It's not like that, Jace. Then tell me what it's like, Eric. I'm listening. But there was nothing more to hear. He hung up on me. Didn't go home that night. I drove out to my first store in Logan instead, the one I opened 14 years ago with a loan secured against Dad's place. I unlocked the back office, turned on the lights, and just sat there for hours, going through old family photos. trying to piece together the moment it all went wrong. When the sun started creeping up, I picked up the phone and called Emily in Salt Lake City. "Dad, it's 6 in the morning," she answered, groggy. "What's going on?" Emily had always been sharp. Got that from her mom, I suppose. But she'd inherited my stubborn streak too, and I knew she wasn't going to let me dodge her questions. "Emily," I said gently, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be real honest with me. You're scaring me, Dad. Have you noticed anything different about your mother lately? Anything unusual in how she's been acting?" There was a long pause on the line. "Dad, what's happening? Just answer me, sweetheart." She let out a slow breath. "Yeah, she's been different, more distant. And she asked me some weird stuff last month about Uncle Eric." My stomach tightened. "What kind of stuff?" She asked if I thought he seemed lonely, if I thought he was a good man. I nearly dropped the phone. "What did you tell her?" I told her, yeah, of course he is. He's family. But something about it felt off, Dad. It was like she was trying to dig for information about him. That's when it hit me. Tina had been scheming longer than I realized, testing the waters, seeing how things might play out. And maybe, just maybe, she was using my daughter Emily to figure out if Eric could slide into the role of stepdad. "Emily, I need you to do me a favor," I told her. "Don't mention this talk to your mom. And if she brings up Uncle Eric again, steer the conversation in a different direction." "Dad, you're really starting to scare me," she said. I reassured her. "I'll explain everything soon, I swear." But for now, I needed her to trust me. After we hung up, I just sat there in that tiny, cluttered office and made up my mind. I wasn't going to go straight at Tina or Eric, not yet. If I did that, it'd give them a chance to sync up their stories. Maybe even speed up whatever plan they already had in motion. No, this needed to be handled smart, like I would any other problem at work. I'd start gathering proof, keep records, track everything. And once I had the full picture, I'd make my move. I cracked open my laptop and started digging into divorce attorneys. If Tina thought she was going to pull a fast one on me, she had another thing coming. I spent 16 years building my business from the ground up. I know how to think ahead, how to put together a game plan, and more importantly, how to come out on top. By 9 that morning, I had a meeting scheduled with one of the top divorce lawyers in Ogden. His name was Samuel Grant, and he was known for handling complex cases where money and assets were on the line. It was time to defend what was mine. Grant's office towered over downtown. Glass walls, sleek steel, the kind of place that let you know this guy meant business. And the man himself? He was exactly the type I needed. Mid-60s, sharp silver hair, and that steady confidence you only get from fighting and winning, the kind of legal battles that scare off most other attorneys. "Mr. Miller," Grant said, looking over the stack of papers I'd brought. "This is more than just a cheating spouse situation." He looked me in the eye and continued. "Your wife and brother seem to be working together to strip away your assets, bit by bit." I leaned forward in that expensive leather chair. "Can you spell that out for me?" "It means they're not just sneaking around behind your back," he explained. "They're setting things up to walk away with everything you've built." He spread out the copies of bank records I'd snapped photos of. "These transactions to Horizon Strategies, LLC, that's a dummy company. I've seen this game before. So what do we do now?" I asked. Grant gave a slow, tight-lipped grin. "We shut it all down. Freeze every account." That meant personal accounts, business assets, even the house my dad left me. "Your wife's been laying the groundwork for this for months," Grant said. "But she made a key mistake." I raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "She didn't think you'd catch on. These secret transfers, those qualify as financial fraud." He pointed to an email chain between Tina and her lawyer. "And this? This shows it was all pre-planned. The best part? She doesn't know you know." Within a couple of hours, Grant had emergency motions in place to lock down every marital asset. He also brought in a forensic accountant to chase down every cent that had moved over the past year. The legal gears were turning now, and Tina wasn't going to see it coming until it was way too late. But I had one more stop to make. Eric worked across town at a place called Peak Trail Outfitters. They were one of our competitors in the outdoor gear business. It was time to face my brother. I found him in the fishing aisle, showing a customer some lures. When he spotted me walking up, his face went pale. The customer must have sensed something was off, because they backed away fast. "Jace, hold on," Eric started. "Don't talk," I said, low and steady. "Just listen." He looked around, clearly nervous. "Maybe we should take this outside." "Nope. We're doing this right here." I stepped in close, speaking just loud enough for only him to hear. 24 years, Eric. That's how long I've been married to Tina. And for 46 years, I've called you my brother. Was any of that ever real to you? It was, Jace, he said quickly. You've got to believe me. We didn't mean for things to end up like this. Don't give me that sappy movie excuse, I said. This wasn't some random mistake. You've been working behind my back to take my inheritance, my company, my entire life. Eric looked defeated, shoulders slumping. That house should have been split between us after Dad passed, he muttered. You know it. So your answer was to charm my wife and go behind my back? That's how you justify it. It's not like that, he said. Tina came to me first. She said she was feeling alone, that you were always busy. I grabbed his shirt collar and pulled him in close. Let me tell you something, little brother. I worked those long hours so my family could have a future. Every night I stayed late. Every weekend I skipped. Every dinner I missed. It was all for them. And you? You twisted that into something ugly. Jace, please. No, I said firmly. You made your bed. Now you've got to sleep in it. That evening, I sat down with Grant again. He had an update. Judging by the tight look on his face, I could tell it wasn't going to be great news for Tina or Eric. The forensic accountant uncovered something odd, Grant said, pushing a folder across the desk toward me. Turns out the money transfers have been going on for 9 months, not 7. I flipped open the folder and started reading. Then he hit me with the real shocker. Some of those funds? They were used to pay off your brother's credit card debts. My eyes locked on the statements, $14, 500 sent to pay balances tied to Eric's name. Tina wasn't just helping him. She was bankrolling his life. So that's how she bought his loyalty, I muttered. She paid off his mess and kept him close. Grant leaned back. Unfortunately, it gets even worse. The house your father left you? Tina's been digging around, trying to find ways to force a sale. I looked up. What do you mean? She spoke with at least 3 real estate attorneys about filing a petition action. Petition action? I asked. It's a legal move where one co-owner can ask the court to force the sale of shared property. But here's where it gets creative, he said. She's planning to argue that she's in a common-law marriage with your brother. My stomach turned. Common-law marriage? That's recognized here. In Utah? Yes. If she can convince the court they've been living together and presented themselves as a married couple, she could argue Eric has legal rights to that house as her spouse. And then, I said, connecting the dots, they could push through a sale and split the money. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. The nerve of it. They were trying to rewrite the past, like I never existed. She was going to divorce me, I realized out loud. Then turn around and claim she and Eric were common-law married the whole time, retroactively applying it to grab whatever assets she could. Can they get away with that? I asked. Grant shook his head. Not if we act first. I've already filed to have the house declared separate property based on your father's will. He paused, then looked me square in the eye. But Jace, this level of deception? Your wife is playing a long game. And she's far more dangerous than we assumed at first. That night, I drove out to the one place that had always felt solid, my childhood home. The house Dad had poured his sweat into, one board at a time. Tina's car wasn't there. Probably off somewhere, cooking up her next scheme. I walked the old hallways where Eric and I used to run around as kids. The same rooms where Dad taught us how to fix things and how to tie the perfect fishing knot. In his old workshop, I spotted something familiar, a dusty photo album my mom had put together before she passed. I sat down and started flipping through it. Photos of me and Eric as boys. Baseball games, fishing trips, graduations. And then, there it was, my wedding day. Tina, dressed in white, absolutely glowing. Eric beside me, hand on my shoulder, both of us smiling like we were on top of the world. That was 24 years ago, back when I thought I understood loyalty, back when I believed in it. I closed the album slowly, my decision settling in. Whatever I had to do, no matter the cost, I wasn't going to roll over and let them win. Dad had worked too hard to leave us something lasting. I wasn't about to let greed and betrayal tear it all down. Starting tomorrow, I'd fight back with everything I had. Then, 3 days after I confronted Eric at the store, I got a call that threw a whole new wrench in the gears. Mr. Miller, the voice on the other end said. This is Detective Leo Alvarez with Ogden PD. We need to speak with you. I asked, what's this about, Detective? Your brother filed a report, he said. Claims you threatened him at his workplace. I sat in my truck in the police station parking lot, trying to wrap my head around it. Eric had filed a false report. It was more than just a stupid move. It was desperate. And desperate meant my legal pressure was starting to work. Inside the station, I met with Alvarez. Solid guy, probably mid-40s, with the kind of face that told you he'd seen every side of human behavior. I laid it all out for him, told him the full story, showed him the bank records Grant had pulled together. "So your wife's been taking money behind your back?" Alvarez said, scanning the documents. "And your brother's involved. And when you confronted him, he says you got physical." I grabbed his collar, I said. "That's it. I didn't threaten him. Didn't lay a hand on him." Alvarez nodded slowly as he kept reading. "Mr. Miller, based on what I'm seeing here, this looks like a coordinated fraud scheme." Then he asked, "Have you thought about pressing criminal charges?" "I want to handle this through civil court first," I told him. "But if they keep pushing, yeah, we'll go there." He nodded again. "Well, if you'd like, you can file a counter-complaint. Filing a false police report is a misdemeanor." I thanked him and headed home. But what I found when I walked into our bedroom made my heart pound. Tina was packing. There were suitcases on the bed, clothes folded, drawers open. She turned when she saw me. Her face was calm, but cold, like she'd already checked out. "You going somewhere?" I asked. "Eric and I are taking a trip," she said simply. "We need time to figure some things out." "Figure out what?" I asked, my voice flat. "How to siphon off more of my money." She stopped what she was doing and faced me directly. "Jace, this doesn't have to get ugly," she said. "We can come to a reasonable agreement. A fair settlement." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Fair? Like when you decided to hook up with my brother to take my inheritance? Or maybe fair like trying to fake a marriage with him just to grab my dad's house?" Her face went pale. "How do you?" "I know everything, Tina. The shell company, the money transfers, all those underhanded legal tricks. Samuel Grant doesn't miss a thing," I said. "He's thorough. Too thorough for games like yours." Tina looked shaken. "Jace, please. We can still fix this." I stared at the woman I'd shared my life with for 24 years. Same face, same soft voice. But behind her eyes, there was someone else entirely. A stranger who'd spent months mapping out moves like a chess game, while I was out there building us a future. "Tina," I said quietly, not angry, just tired. "I gave you everything. My time, my trust, my heart, my family. You had it all. And you traded it away for a shot at running off with my brother." She looked like she wanted to say something, but all that came out was, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Then how?" I asked. "Explain it to me. Tell me how this was supposed to go." She turned back to her suitcase, zipping it up like the conversation was done. "You'll never understand." "Try me," I said. But she didn't. Just kept packing like my words meant nothing. 10 minutes later, she was walking out the front door with her luggage. She loaded the bags into her car, rolled the window down, and looked at me like maybe, just maybe, there was still something left to say. "I just need some time," she said, "to figure out our next steps." I looked at the woman I once believed I'd grow old with and felt something cold and final settle deep inside my chest. "Take all the time you need, Tina," I said. "There's nothing here for you anymore." The next morning, Grant called with urgency in his voice. "Jace, we need to meet. Now." The accountant found something big. An hour later, I was back in his office. And what I saw on the desk made my blood turn to fire. Nina Rhodes, the forensic accountant Grant had brought on, had been digging deep. And what she'd uncovered went way beyond anything I was ready for. "It's worse than we thought," she said, tapping a document. "The money transfers didn't begin 7 months ago." I frowned. "Then when?" 17 months ago, right after your father's funeral." That hit hard. "Your wife started moving money within weeks of the inheritance," she explained. "At first, small transfers. But the amounts increased as she got bolder." Grant laid out a timeline like a prosecutor building a case. "Every withdrawal lines up with a key business milestone," he said. "New equipment purchases, seasonal investments, expansion loans." She was skimming, I muttered. Methodically, Grant confirmed. "How much?" I asked, already bracing myself. 75,000, Rhodes said. "That's what we can prove. But there could be more, untraceable stuff, cash movements." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. All this time, while I was working overtime to build our future, she was bleeding the company dry. Rhodes wasn't done. "There's another layer. Your brother. He's been feeding her confidential information about your competitors." "What kind of information?" I asked. "Sales figures, vendor pricing, customer records, key intel." I shook my head in disbelief. How would Eric even know any of that? Grant answered before she could. Mountain sports gear. Industrial espionage. He's been gathering your internal data and funneling it to Tina so she could make preemptive business plays. He leaned in. Jace, this isn't just cheating or theft anymore. This is organized fraud. Conspiracy. They weren't just robbing you, they were setting fire to your entire world so they could pick through the ashes. I stood up and walked to the window, staring out over the city I'd poured my soul into. What do we do next? We go fast, Grant said. Emergency hearing tomorrow to freeze all remaining assets. Lock everything down before they move another dime. And Eric? That's criminal territory, Grant said. I'll be briefing Detective Alvarez this afternoon. That night, I visited all 3 of my stores. Walked each floor. Talked to my people. Checked the inventory myself. These weren't just businesses. They were the result of 16 years of sacrifice. Missed birthdays. Missed dinners. Years of waking up before the sun and working long past dark. I built something I hoped to pass on to my kids. And now I saw the full picture of what Tina and Eric had been doing. It wasn't just about the money. It was destruction. Plain and simple. At my first store in Logan, I found Alex Foster, my assistant manager, restocking the fishing aisle. Mr. Miller, he said with a smile. Good to see you. Everything all right? Alex, I asked, has anyone been asking strange questions lately? About the business. Competitors sniffing around? Alex's face turned serious. Actually, yeah. Your brother was in here a few days ago asking about our supplier contracts. Said he was thinking of opening his own shop. What did you tell him? Nothing too detailed, Alex said. I just mentioned we're switching to a new camping gear distributor next month. Why? I clapped him on the shoulder. Appreciate the honesty, Alex. Just keeping tabs on things. On the drive home, it all clicked. Tina and Eric hadn't just been plotting to hurt me. They were trying to wipe me off the map. Leave nothing behind. Start fresh on the ruins of my life. But they'd made one massive miscalculation. They thought I'd just lie down and take it. They had no idea how far I'd go to protect what was mine. The emergency hearing was locked in for Thursday morning. Grant worked through the night, and by Wednesday evening, we had our entire case built and bulletproof. But the real twist came early Thursday, 6:30 a.m. sharp. Detective Alvarez called. Jace, he said. We got him. I sat straight up. What happened? Eric and Tina were arrested an hour ago. They were caught trying to cross into Arizona with 83 grand in cash. What charges? Wire fraud. Conspiracy to commit theft. Filing false police reports. And we're still counting. The FBI stepped in after that. Once Eric and Tina crossed state lines, it became a federal case. I sat on the edge of my hotel bed, staring at the carpet, trying to make sense of everything. How do you even find them? I asked Detective Alvarez over the phone. Your attorney gave us a heads up, he said. We were keeping tabs on the house, and when they loaded a moving truck at 2 in the morning, we knew they were making a run for it. At the courthouse later that day, Grant laid out our case like a surgeon, clean, precise, and impossible to ignore. Judge Karen Ellison, a stern woman with sharp eyes and no visible emotion, sat and listened as Grant went through it all, the bank transfers, the email chains, the recorded phone calls, and testimony from my employees who'd caught Eric sniffing around for information. When Grant wrapped up, he looked directly at the judge. Your Honor, this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment betrayal or a marriage falling apart. This was a long-term, calculated effort to defraud my client. They didn't just try to take his money. They tried to dismantle his entire life's work. Judge Ellison spent almost 25 minutes flipping through the files before finally speaking. Mr. Miller, your motion to freeze all shared assets is granted. A court-appointed receiver will begin recovery of any misappropriated funds immediately. Additionally, I'm issuing a restraining order. Neither party may contact you or interfere with your businesses in any way. I cleared my throat. And the house, Your Honor? The one I inherited from my father. That property is legally considered separate, non-marital. Mrs. Miller has no claim to it. When I walked out of that courthouse, it wasn't happiness I felt. Wasn't even relief. Just peace. For the first time in months, the weight that had been pressing down on my chest was finally gone. Later that afternoon, I visited all 3 of my stores. I called quick meetings at each one, didn't sugarcoat anything. My people deserved honesty. They needed to know their jobs were safe. At the Logan store, Alex Foster, my assistant manager, spoke up. Boss, we figured something was off. We just didn't know how to bring it up. What do you mean? Your brother, he said. He kept showing up, asking weird questions about our supplier contracts. And your wife? Well, she started acting strange too. Like she wasn't visiting, she was observing. That evening, I called both of my kids. Told them everything. Emily cried quietly on the other end of the line. Ben got mad. Really mad. Said he was ready to drive down and confront Eric face to face. I talked him out of it. Dad, Emily said through sniffles. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry we didn't see this coming. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. Sweetheart, this isn't on you. None of this is. So what happens now? Now, I said, exhaling slowly. Now we move forward. We fix what's broken and we protect what's still standing. 5 months later, I stood in the backyard of my dad's old house, the house that was now truly mine. The sun was coming up over the mountains, painting the sky in soft golds and blues. The legal stuff was finally behind me. Tina pled guilty to fraud. She got 3 years of probation and was ordered to pay back every cent. Eric didn't get off so easy. 18 months in federal prison. Neither of them had tried to reach out since the arrests, and I had no plans of ever speaking to them again. Funny thing was, despite the money they took, the business was doing better than ever. Without their quiet sabotage bleeding me dry, our profit margins actually improved. I'd hired 3 new employees. Was even looking into opening a 4th location. Dad, Emily's voice floated out from the back door. She'd driven in for the weekend, something she'd started doing more often after the divorce was finalized. Out here, I called. She joined me on the porch, handing me a cup of coffee and sitting beside me. We looked out at the hills in silence for a while. How are you? She finally asked. I mean, really? Better than I thought I'd be, I said. Some days are hard. Other days, not so much. Do you miss her? That question took a second to process. Do I miss Tina? Not really. I think I miss who I thought she was. I miss the life I thought we had. But I don't miss living a lie. Emily nodded slowly. And Uncle Eric? That one hit deeper. Eric was my brother for 46 years. But the guy who did what he did? That wasn't my brother. That version of him. That person died a long time ago. He made his choices, I said. And now he's living with them. She took a sip from her cup. I met someone. Oh yeah. His name's Mark. He's a teacher. Good man. You like him? I do. He reminds me of you, actually. Honest. Hardworking. Doesn't try to be someone he's not. I smiled. Then I'd like to meet him. Really? Really? Life's too short to waste on people who lie to you. If he treats you right and makes you happy, that's what matters. 2 months after that, I was at the Logan store, helping stock some shelves, when a woman walked in looking for camping gear. She looked to be about 44. Graying hair, soft laugh lines around her eyes, like she'd seen both the good and the bad and still found reasons to smile. She said she was prepping for a solo hiking trip through Cedar Mesa. Solo? I asked. That's ambitious. She grinned. My ex-husband used to say I was too fragile for adventures like that. Turns out he was wrong about a lot of things. Her name was Nina Dean, a nurse from Salt Lake City, recently divorced, figuring life out again, on her own terms. We talked for over an hour. About trails, gear, sleeping pads, water filters. When she left, she had everything she needed for her trip and my business card. She called 2 weeks later to thank me, then asked if I knew any good restaurants in Logan. I did. For months after that, Nina moved to Ogden, got her own place, her own schedule, her own dreams. And me? I kept moving forward. Still do. We're not in a rush, Nina and me. We take things slow, real slow. We build trust piece by piece, like a cabin in the woods. And we treat honesty like it's a rare kind of treasure, because it is. I'm 51 now, old enough to carry some scars, the kind that don't always show on the outside. Old enough to know that some betrayals dig in so deep, they don't just wound you. They change who you are at your core. But I'm still young enough to believe the road ahead holds good things. Still got hope in the tank. Still got some dreams left in me. Tina and Eric, they took a lot. Time, money, years I can't get back. But they didn't take everything. They couldn't touch my grit. They couldn't take my name, my word, or the way I show up for the people who matter. They couldn't take my ability to care for someone with my whole heart. Some stories end in revenge. Some end in forgiveness. But mine? Mine ends with something better. Hard-earned wisdom. A peace that doesn't shout, just settles in quietly. And the calm, steady pride of a man who stayed standing when the world tried to knock him down. And came out the other side not just standing, but stronger.